Is it time for your church to reopen its doors? The strains of the pandemic have forced many group gatherings to pause indefinitely, and churches are no exception. But with careful planning, it is possible to invite back your congregation while still remaining safe. In today's video, we'll cover 5 guidelines to follow when planning your church reopening. I'm Alex from Jotform, and let's get right into it. Congregations around the world have to tread carefully as the COVID-19 pandemic continues. Churches are places of sanctuary and peace, but many of these spaces haven't been able to return to full capacity due to the close proximity between people inside of a church. Fortunately, churches can reopen so long as they implement and enforce social protections to maintain health and safety. Whether you're a pastor, bishop, or reverend, you're faced with making tough decisions about how to address your congregation safely. Reopening your church will require critical thinking and planning to ensure the safety and comfort of all who gather in your church. Let's look at a few guidelines you can follow to navigate through the church reopening process. First, you'll need to start the process by cleaning the entire church. Maintaining thorough cleaning practices is even more important nowadays. So before your congregants arrive, complete a thorough cleaning process. Consider limiting access to any areas that you aren't currently using to reduce the number of spaces that need to be kept clean regularly. Some areas that you might temporarily close are the preschool room and nursery. Focus on the areas in which germs pose the highest risk. The bathrooms, water fountains, doorknobs, microphones, and light switches, and use CDC-recommended disinfectants to sanitize them. Be sure to observe proper drying times to allow disinfectants to kill viruses and bacteria. Next, you'll need to adjust your normal practices. Consider implementing practices like cleaning the pulpit after each use, removing hymnals and Bibles from pews, placing tape on the floor to encourage social distancing, positioning furniture to block hallways where access is limited, posting signs to advise people to avoid shaking hands, passing out flyers to the congregation about preparing for services, and sharing information through email and social media about new health and safety measures. Another guideline is to create alternative worship services. In most cases, church members will not be able to gather at the same time and still maintain social distancing. So, it's a good idea to plan alternative options for worship. For instance, hold multiple services throughout the day to thin out the crowd. Implement a pre-registration procedure for congregation members to sign up for the service that they plan to attend. And recruit volunteers to clean in between each service. You may find that you need to shorten the length of the services to allow time for thorough cleaning. Further, there's always online options for those who are unable to attend in person. Next, you'll need to encourage social distancing. Keep in mind that families from the same household can sit together, but separate households should remain apart. You can create space between groups by closing every other pew with a simple sheet of paper to indicate that the row is not to be used. Don't forget to change how you offer communion or any other activities that require close interaction. Avoid passing around communion. Instead, offer elements of communion to be picked up as people enter the church. Alternatively, you could ask volunteers to bring communion trays around while wearing gloves and masks. The 5th guideline is to use online forms. The pandemic forced organizations to use online solutions more often, making online forms even more popular. Jotform offers a variety of effective church management software to assist in the church reopening process, like attendance estimate forms, which can be useful for maintaining attendance levels. This form gives a weekly estimate of the size of your congregation. People who want to attend a service can complete the form to notify the church of their plans. There's also crowd management through QR codes. Some congregations may want to use a combination of forms and QR codes to manage the crowds. For instance, you can generate a unique QR code for each attendance form submission and only allow the owners of the correct QR codes into the service. Then, there's self-screening forms. Ask congregation members to complete a self-screening form prior to entering the church. This step reduces the risk of someone spreading the virus. You should also require self-screening forms for all clergy, employees, and other visitors. There's also forms for prayer requests. Digital prayer requests enable congregation members to participate in worship without closely interacting with one another. And Last but not least, there's online donation forms. With concern that the virus could spread through the donation tray, one alternative option is to set up online donation forms. This provides churchgoers with an opportunity to donate safely and can help churches to maintain revenue. As you now know, there are many ways to use online forms to assist with your church reopening strategy. With the right approach and careful planning, you'll be able to resume worship and reopen your church's doors to the community. Before I sign off, let's recap. Throughout the process of reopening your church, try following these guidelines. First, clean the entire church. Then, adjust your practices. Next, create alternative worship services. Be sure to encourage social distancing. And finally, use online forms like those offered by Jotform to ease the process. Again, I'm Alex from Jotform, and thanks for joining us today. We'll see you in the next one.